First came out, I kid you not, I listened to that 24 hours straight. I went to bed with that song, I woke up with that song, I played it in the car, when I came here, that song, I just played it over and over and over and over. Well folks, tonight, this is our last message in the series called Foreigners, Exiles Living in a Hostile World. And I figured that we would start off something a little different for tonight to kind of get the big picture to encapsulate everything of what I think Peter was trying to convey in this letter. And I want to do this by showing you guys a movie clip from Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. It was actually, the movie was done by, the book that was done by J.R.R. Tolkien. And in this particular scene, just to simplify it, you got good guys and bad guys. The good guys are trying to save not only their lives, but everybody else's lives that are held up in this fortress, in this castle. And you have the bad guys that are wanting to come in and just kind of destroy anything and everything. And one of the kings is told that to stand firm, in essence, to hold out for 5 days. And on the 5th day, look to the east, and they'll be rescued. So this whole entire time, they're enduring all of this. And until they see this other person by the name of Gandalf come down the mountain. So I want to show you guys this clip, and then I'll explain why do I think this is encapsulates it.
Ride out with me. Ride out and meet for death and glory, for Rohan, for your people. The sun is rising. Look to my coming at first light on the 5th day. At dawn, look to the east. Yes. Yes.
The horn of Hammerhand shall sound in the deep. One last time. Yes.
Let this be the hour when we draw swords together. Fell deeds awake.
Now the wrath, now the ruin, and the red dawn. For the Avengers!
Stand alone. Not alone.
Look it up!
I show that scene Just for the simple fact, like I said, they had to stand firm. They had to hold out this entire time. And so you got to understand, we come to the end of this letter in chapter 5 that Peter is writing. And remember, he's writing to scattered foreigners, scattered Christians all over the Roman Empire. He's writing them to encourage them because they're suffering physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially. But we come to the end of his letter, and it's more so, I want you to stand firm and I want you to stand out. So tonight we're going to see 5 specific principles that Peter lays out for us of how to stand firm during suffering. So if you have a Bible with you, look in the New Testament, chapter 5, 1 Peter, starting at verses 1. It says, "The elders who are among you, I exhort. I'm a fellow elder and a witness of the sufferings of Christ and also a partaker of the glory that will be revealed. Shepherd the flock of God which is among you, serving as overseers, not by compulsion, but willingly, not for dishonest gain, but eagerly. In words, being lords over those who trusted you, but being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that does not fade away." So Peter starts out this section of the end of the letter by specifically talking to the church leaders, more so the elders. And if I can just take a brief second, there are 3 interchangeable words throughout the New Testament that we see all the time. 1 is elders, 2 is pastors, and 3 is either overseers or bishops. They're all 3 different titles, but they all are interchangeable, holding one position of leadership. An elder is just a person who is older, but also wiser. That's why they always tell you to respect your elders. But just because a person is older than you does not necessarily make them wise. The wise elder is more so they're mature in their faith and their relationship with Jesus Christ. A pastor is a person who shepherds and takes care and protects of the flock. The overseer or the bishop is just an office for the elder or the pastor. And so one of the main key things that Peter is emphasizing here in this passage, in these verses, is he points out that you need faithful leaders to come alongside these people that are going to be enduring this fiery trial here very soon. And so all of us we're all leaders. In some form, some way, in some fashion, you're all leaders, whether in your household, whether in your business, whether in your community, whether you serve, whether you're volunteering. Because also Peter tells us in chapter 1 that we are the priesthood. So we are leaders. And sometimes, we look at this passage and say, okay, well, you know what? This pertains particularly to pastors. So I'm just kind of tune out right here. But if you look closely with me to these 4 verses, there are characteristics that God wants to instill in us to make us sweet. He wants us to be sweet followers of Jesus Christ. Look in verses 2. S stands for shepherd. Shepherd the flock of God which is among you, serving as overseers. So again, a shepherd wants to provide, wants to protect, wants to care for, wants to love, is willing to do anything and everything for the sheep so they make it from a point A to a point B in the pasture. A lot of times, the sheep have to be like one of the dumbest animals on earth. And they constantly want to lead astray. And so it's the shepherd's job to kind of grab them and make sure that they're leading in the direction. But sheep also are all the time in a flock. Just as God has wired and designed us to be in community, to be within community with each other. The shepherd loves, cares, provides for the whole well-being of that flock. So maybe the question is, how well are we doing for caring for one another? Because by default nature, I think a lot of times we, especially in church culture, we want to come into the doors. And if someone doesn't say anything to us, we automatically, well, this person didn't say hi to me, this person didn't shake my hand. Or maybe we look around and say, well, that person's in my seat. Or maybe we have, we listen to music, we're like, I would have picked a different song, or I don't like that song, or I don't like that stuff. But when it comes down to it, we must think of others. How can we come alongside someone? Maybe we invite someone to service. Maybe it's inviting someone to your life group. Maybe it's inviting someone to your house. Maybe we can possibly think of, okay, who's got a burden? How can I be praying for that person? How can I encourage that person? How can I come alongside this particular person? S is for shepherd. W, we see in verse 2. Not by compulsion, but willingly. You willingly think about and you want to provide and care for one another. Not out of duty, but out of desire. Because you want to please the Lord, because the love of God is in you, willingly want to come beside someone else. You want to provide the care for that person, not out of duty or out of obligation, but because you desire to do so. It continues on and says, not for dishonest gain, but eagerly. The first E is eagerly. You want to do it eagerly, not because you're enticed to, not because, if I do this, then this is going to boost my reputation, or look at everybody, look at what I did. No, you do it eagerly. And then the second E in verse 3, it says, nor as being lords over those who trust you, but being examples to the flock. That's the second E, be an example. We're supposed to be an example to others. So if you ever give counsel or advice, whether do this or don't do this to somebody else, can they honestly say that what you're talking about, you're walking it out in your life? Are you an example in that person's life? If you're telling this person to do something or don't do something, are they seeing that in your own life? And then you look in verses 4. It says, and when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that does not fade away. We live in triumph because we know what awaits for us. For those who have placed their faith in Jesus Christ, we live in triumph, we live in victory, because we already know what's going to take place. Peter already covered this in chapter 1. He basically says, look, you're going to have an inheritance. It's not going to perish. It's not going to fade away. It's not going to spoil. So therefore, the very first thing for us to stand firm is by the care of the family. You stand firm by the care of the family of God, the people that are coming beside you, that are loving you, that are carrying you, that are encouraging you to continue on in this aspect of life. It says, likewise, you younger people, submit yourselves to your elders. Yes, all of you be submissive to one another and be clothed with humility. For God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. So throughout the letter, remember Peter was saying, okay, hey, I want you to be submissive to the Roman authority, the Roman government. Slaves, Christian slaves, I want you to be submissive to your masters. It was kind of like that employee relationship. Wives, I want you to be submissive to your husbands. Husbands, I want you to be submissive to your husbands. Now he's saying, now I want you to be completely and utterly submissive to God. And when you're submissive to God, then you can be submissive to one another. Look at the phrase in verses 5 when Peter says, be clothed with humility. See, Peter would have known this, and he chose this just for the fact the night of the Last Supper, right before they're going into the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus took off his outer garments and put a towel around him and did the lowest position that a slave could ever do. And he served his disciples. It's the same mind frame that we need to come alongside, and we need to serve others. We need to minister to their needs. But we can't do that. We can't submit to one another unless we submit to God. That's why Peter writes in verse 6. He says, be clothed with humility, for God resists the proud. God hates the proud. He hates a prideful person. You think about it. Pride is what led Satan to fall. Pride is what allowed Eve. She wanted to be like God. She wanted to see like God, to know like God. If you think about it, pride is is why so many of us make unwise choices. Pride is what causes relational issues. I can think of a particular person right now that hasn't been here for months. They haven't been here for months because of a hardened heart, because of a pride issue. They don't go to church, they no longer go to groups, no longer get along with God, they no longer want to get busy or get started because they think that I can handle this situation that's going on in my life by myself. I'm going to handle this. I can do this. Pride gets in the way. So the antidote for pride is to receive the grace of God by humbly submitting ourselves to Him. So the second aspect that we see is to stand firm by being humble. Notice in verse 6, it says, therefore humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that He may exalt you in due time. Due time. God never exalts, God never lifts up someone who is not ready. God is constantly extending grace. God is constantly extending an invitation for that person. But we also have free will to choose, like, no, I don't want this. And so we have pride, we have this humble heart. And yet God consistently is going after, to the point that we know this, that He sent His Son, Jesus Christ, to humble Himself as a servant, to serve us, to die upon a brutal cross for the sake of us, because of our sin, because of our sins, because of our guilt. But He rose from the grave 3 days later so that you and I would have a relationship with God the Father, that we would no longer be living in sin. And so, what's interesting, knowing this, Peter continues and says, therefore humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that He may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon Him, for He cares for you. So Peter continues to talk about being submission to God. If you're taking notes, you want to highlight or underline or circle over the word care, because the word care means not only are you giving all your cares to God, past, this is what's been bothering me because of what my past entails, but my present, this is my present current situation, this is my suffering, this is my persecution, this is what I'm going through, or I'm worrying about my future. But the word care means anxiety. Anxiety means that you're being pulled away from. In essence, Satan wants you to focus exactly on your situation, on your suffering, on your persecution. Because when you focus on that, what happens is you get pulled away further and further and further away from the cross. It's also another picture I found interesting. It's as of a little child, a baby, who is nursing. The child is nursing and it's close to the mother's chest. Everything and anything, that child is completely trusted into the mother. It's in the arms of a loving mother, and it's getting the nutrients of life. Everything, every concern is wrapped up in the arms of the mother. It doesn't want to be pulled away. But when we focus on our situations and our suffering and persecution, and that's our focus, then yes, our anxieties, our cares, we get pulled away rather than literally giving them unto God. So those who humble themselves know their need to God. I need you, God. I need to humble myself before you. I need you, but not only do I need you, but I need your people to surround me in this particular situation. I know another individual who's been suffering for the last 3 or 4 months. And this individual could have chose to be like the other situation of the person I just mentioned. In the last 3 or 4 months, he has endured some extreme suffering with his life circumstances, tragic life circumstances. But yet, the individual has chosen to take care of the family, has chosen to humble himself before God, and has chosen to stand firm by, here's the third aspect, stand firm to believe in the relief. Stand firm to believe in the relief, that you're relieving your anxieties, you're casting your cares unto God and say, you know what, I'm done with this. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. This is who I am from yesterday. This is what I did. But I'm literally laying everything down to you, giving my cares.